And what was your feeling about what happened in Shanghai?
I mean, I think for a lot of us who, in normal times go to many art fairs, it was just a little bit like culture shock to be back, on the floor, uh, and in a whole week of dinners and receptions and events and things. So, um, yeah, it was this strange taste of like life before the plague a little bit. And then I guess on a more content level, you definitely noticed. I mean, everyone trying really hard to adapt to the circumstances. So, still you had some of the international galleries participating in West Bund or 021, often without the protagonist, being able to visit. Although some people were, like Hidenori Ota, for example, came from Japan and did his quarantine, or you had some people coming up from Hong Kong. But by and large, it was the Chinese-based representatives of these different galleries kind of, taking care of things. And it meant that you had, I think, more, it's already such a feat just to get anything into the country that you didn't have the sorts of, solo presentations or special projects that you would in a normal year. But still, that was, we're just grateful to be able to see work in the same place. And then you also had just a lot of institutional and gallery exhibitions around town that were, I think, of pretty high quality, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, and I think also just because of the situation. I mean, really, with the exception of the Alex de Corte show at the Prada space, most of the institutional shows were Chinese artists, um, which is not necessarily the case in Shanghai. So it was Zhang Enli's show at the Power Station or Liu Wei's show at the Law Museum. Or you had like some very interesting, very beautiful small show by an artist called Yu Ji at the Sifang Art Museum. Now has a space, like a downtown space in China, an old apartment in Shanghai. And then in the galleries you had a very nice, very smart show at Antenna. You had a beautiful Yang Pudong show at Shanghai Art. So Yang Zhenzhong show at the Ren space. There was certainly a lot to see.
And it was a good level. It was
Yeah, I think
quality things.
definitely. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
And it seems that uh, despite the fact that foreigners were not here, um, they sold a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I mean, I haven't really talked to so many dealers, but I think, I mean, especially like, you also really see the difference between the two fairs becoming more and more clear, like with West Bund as a very, um, precise kind of um, international, like sort of top tier established fair, and then with 021 being like this very broad showcase that can encompass a lot of different elements of Shanghai today, and certainly on the level of like visitors. I mean, I think by the weekend, 021 was just completely packed. So it's definitely interesting to see. I think, yeah, it sort of accords very well with what your kind of normal Shanghainese think about art today. So yeah, foreigners are not really very important to this whole equation at this point, really at all, right? I mean, so it's in a new building, in what we think is a great area of Shanghai, just north of the Suzhou Creek. Um, 800 meters from the People's Square, close to, not far from the Bund, in a very urban area with a lot of new development around it. So it'll be quite interesting for us because it's in 798 in Beijing. We're in 798, which is a sort of art destination in the city, and our satellite location is even more of a destination, right, by the sea in this development. So we're quite curious to see what it's going to be like to just operate an art space in the city. Kind of
And what are you going to show
a
there?
more stand. Well, we will keep true to the kind of bones of our program in Beijing. I mean, in the sense that I think UCCA is always about trying to put the Chinese in international context, and the international and Chinese context. That's kind of the heart of our program. So that means different kinds of shows that do that. We will also, and the space there is quite different from Beijing. We actually have the same surface area of the ground floor area of exhibition space as our Great Hall in Beijing, about 1,800 square meters of exhibition space. And we have some special features like an outdoor sculpture terrace, a bistro and wine bar.
So it's very much associated to lifestyle in a way, which is something very present in China.
And in Shanghai too. I mean, I think it's going to be, 798's the charm, and 798 is things can be sometimes a little bit rough around the edges, where I think in Shanghai needs to be, a little bit more clean and precise.